Coming up on today's wrestling news, WWE's creative plans for CM Punk have been revealed and they're huge.
Bryan Danielson was involved in CM Punk's AEW firing.
New details on a major AEW departure.
And we've got a WWE Backstage morale update following the Punker's return.
He's Michael Hamflett.
He's Adam Wilborn.
And this is the news. Apologies for my impromptu Roderick Strong impression. I'm old and I slept funny the other night and now I can't move my neck. But I suddenly have a lot more respect for Roddy's gimmick.
You're old, you're tired, and it's only been 4 months and you're tired of working with children.
So the good news is I've got a root canal later on today, so...
Yeah.
Every cloud. Anyway, let's talk about CM Punk and the creative plans for him. Obviously, he came back at Survivor Series, cut the promo on Monday Night Raw, which has divided opinion. But according to Sports Illustrated, they've got big plans for him heading into next year. He is going to be working WrestleMania 40. Loads of big stars planned for that show, of course. Brock, John Cena, who knows? The Rock? Ooh, that could be interesting. But according to SI, he will be working with Roman Reigns in the future, but for now, his first feud is going to be against Seth Rollins, of course, which makes a lot of sense with the whole hypocrite stuff that Seth Rollins has been doing and him going, when CM Punk made his return at Survivor Series. Very exciting what they've got planned for CM Punk.
Yeah, on one side of the divide from the Punk promo on Raw, there was very much the... a little bit flat. On the other side of the divide was, well, there's a Seth Rollins feud that's obviously being built if that's where we're going. And this confirmation of that does at least bolster that somewhat, and it feels like we're already in, CM Punk is already in the kayfabe WWE world at this point. You know, there's the Royal Rumble match happening now rather than Punk entering the Rumble to face Seth does offer up a intoxicating new question, doesn't it? What's he doing at WrestleMania?
Yes.
The dream matches that immediately kind of roll off your tongue, off the front of your mind when you think of CM Punk in WWE, suddenly have opened all the way back up again. Rather than just thinking of the first feud, you're now thinking of the next one, which might be optimistic, knowing what we know about the Punker, but I think getting the Seth news is exciting enough without them thinking, well, what the hell is next? Pretty gripping.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see what they do with him. Like you say, I'm eager for him to fight for a world title. I could easily see them stretching Seth versus Punk to one of the main events of WrestleMania, because then everyone's happy, including Seth Rollins, even though he might be dropping the world title in that match.
Yep.
But plans for him versus Roman Reigns just make sense as well. Just not at WrestleMania 40, please.
No, and I don't think as well, like, it's 2 years in a row. I know that they had the match, but the result maybe didn't go everybody's way at 39. If you either screw with the result or even the match second time around, that's where I think even you might be like, well, hold up a second.
Yeah, I obviously said that it was the right decision not to put the title on Cody at WrestleMania 39, and I've been completely vindicated by everything that's happened afterwards. But that was with the major caveat that Cody fights him again. I may have said at SummerSlam at the time, but now I mean WrestleMania 40, and obviously defeats Roman Reigns, because yes, there's always records that Roman can break, but come on.
Yeah. Staying on the Punker.
Always.
Because where else can we go? He doesn't work for AEW anymore.
No, of course.
He does, however, work for WWE. That is because he left AEW in the summer. He was fired with cause, if you remember. And as it was revealed last night, Bryan Danielson was involved heavily in that. One of the members of the Blackpool Cop Club, along with founder member William Regal and bailiff John Moxley. For a bit of balance. He was involved basically in the disciplinary committee that we assumed Tony Khan couldn't be part of because he was directly involved in the incident that resulted in Punk getting fired. And yeah, Bryan Danielson was included in that panel that ultimately came to the conclusion that Punk should be fired with cause following all the events that we've talked about ad nauseum featuring Jack Perry and Tony Khan at All In at Wembley. It was felt that Danielson was obviously a relevant figure, having been a wrestler as well. He's got a long-standing friendship with CM Punk. Interestingly, Fightful yesterday, Just Sap, reported that a tweet made by Bryan Danielson on the 27th of November, which some people might have speculated was to do with can you tweet something like, on-message AEW thing around the All-In tickets going on sale was in fact related to this. To quote, if you didn't see this tweet, Bryan Danielson put out on X that quote, "My dad always told me the right thing is often the hardest thing to do. It won't always make the most money, it won't always be the most popular, but it's still the right thing, hashtag AEW." And Fightful thinks that was related to the decision he had to make. They also noted that their sources believe that Punk was aware of Bryan's participation in the disciplinary, so this isn't some sort of knife in the back situation or anything like that. I do believe there was rumours circulating at the time, unsubstantiated, not sourced, that Punk and Danielson were communicating during Punk's awkwardness around travelling to and from All In. You remember the tube gate and all the controversies. Danielson, as well, it should be noted, has a role already in a disciplinary position within AEW. He's responsible for issuing fines on occasion in the company. And if you remember, just after all of this broke, Tony Khan did say he would trust Danielson with the company if something was to happen to him. That does sort of speak to Bryan's involvement here. So yeah, like an interesting headline that will, of course, probably send a lot of like Punk mega fans going for Danielson's throat. But I honestly believe that was like, you have to have legal representatives. You have to have people that do this job for a living. But from a wrestler's perspective and from somebody that understands a lot, he's travelled a lot of the same roads as Punk. He probably gets the emotional connection with the business. I sort of get it.
He's not judge, jury, and executioner here.
He's not a dead man.
He's part of it. And I think, obviously we heard when Daniel Bryan, as he always would be to me, when he left WWE, he obviously left on good terms. And I assume he just said, free him up so we can go back to the Fed. No, I'm joking. I think, like you say, it was a process, and this wasn't the first time, let's say, that issues have come up with CM Punk backstage. So I think maybe he went, probably it's best for everyone if we call it here. But like I say, he wasn't the be-all, end-all. He was just a part of the process.
The comparisons...
He's a lovely man, Bryan Danielson. We've had our jokes here, but let's not, come on.
Yeah, the comparisons, mainly by idiots like me on X to Wrestlers Court, are all made in jest.
Yes.
There was these are not necessarily names that we necessarily know or think about, but there was a panel that included Bryan Danielson that also featured General Counsel member Chris Peck and an outside attorney. This is serious business taking place with somebody that is maybe slightly closer to Punk's emotional headspace and physical headspace than a lot of people that maybe don't know how wrestling works.
Indeed. And let us know your thoughts on everything regarding CM Punk, by the way, in the comments section below. Who would you like to see him face at WrestleMania 40, if not Seth Rollins? But sticking with AEW, QT Marshall obviously announced that he was leaving the company, and more details have been emerging over the past few days about that. House of Wrestling reported on Tuesday that Marshall's situation, basically he thought that AEW was heading in a new direction. It was kind of time for him to do the same. That contributed to Marshall's decision to resign. The outlet noted that AEW's perceived New Japan-related direction was part of this, with the promotion placing more emphasis on matches rather than storytelling. And Fightful Select reports that while AEW's direction was something Marshall didn't agree with, the New Japan comparisons weren't the reason he resigned, according to sources. He obviously has seen his power, QT, this is, diminish as Cody Rhodes, a good friend of his, obviously left the company back in February of last year. And he'd been very vocal about wanting to work more as a wrestler than a backstage figure. So perhaps he was seeing his opportunities limited and thought, you know what, you're making changes. Maybe it's a good time for me to step away and pursue my own career. I said this yesterday. I'm never going to have a go at someone for backing themselves with whatever they want to do in their career. Yeah,
the mention of stories and matches sort of lobbed a grenade into the conversation, didn't it? Because immediately a lot of people were confused by the comparison to New Japan, because if anything, comparisons to, and I don't like this term, WWE adjacent stories have been where a lot of people have felt AEW has gone so wrong in 2023. So it felt in direct contrast to this take that, well, if you look at the Bachat shows thing that takes up a lot of television time, if you look on the Timeless Tony Storm character and the other kind of comedic leanings and things to do with Neck Strong and the like that have been so integral to AEW's television output, what's he talking about? QT Marshall himself has had the likes of QTV. These very sort of vignette and story-based things that are nothing to do with the matches at the end. If anything, they rarely seem to build.
TMZ's rather popular right now.
Let's do that. You know, like he was involved in one of the first sort of like sports entertainment-y things with Ali, do you remember, in 2020?
Yes.
So this all felt a little bit strange. I think a lot's going to get lost in translation. And to your point, ultimately, this is just one decision from one person that wants to go out and do what they want. Interestingly, though, a lot of AEW wrestlers and colleagues came out in support and were just full of effusive praise for QT Marshall. He's obviously left quite a legacy behind in the company. He's not the first high-profile figure from behind the scenes to take a different role or step back or step aside. There are the plates under the earth have been shifting a little bit in AEW in 2023, and this is just another one of those. It does make you wonder if there's going to be more in 2024.
Well, we'll say this. QT obviously had a huge role to play backstage, formatting shows and what have you. Wasn't he 700 odd things I think he said he'd done?
Yeah.
Tony Khan, please don't just take that job on yourself. Just assign someone else to do it, because he's got a lot on his plate right now.
Yeah. Delegation from the outside has never appeared to be a huge strength of Khan, so this would be a good area in which you could use. And I guess, speaking of backstage roles and backstage morale and backstage drama, there's apparently not that much going around in WWE despite the return of CM Punk.
Good.
Obviously, WWE played on what a controversial figure Punk is with the Seth Rollins tantrum after Survivor Series and how they could use that as part of the work and everything like that. But according to WrestleVotes, the morale is in a good place right now.
Thank goodness.
In WWE. The WrestleVotes came through to say that camaraderie was high. The energy levels at the Tennessee Raw were better than they had been in several years. Shame that didn't extend to the crowd. The quote from WrestleVotes was as follows. Quote, this is from their source, obviously. I'm told everything at WWE Raw was good last night as far as camaraderie backstage throughout the day in Nashville. One source went as far as to say the energy was as high as it's been in years. Things look and sound like we're off to a great start. Of course, all of this is, within 48 hours of CM Punk returning to the company, and the news broke on Saturday night after Survivor Series that only the main event crew were pretty much told as they were going to the ring, Punk's back at the end, this is what you need to expect.
I mean, who else could have seen it coming?
It would have been a surprise to 99% of the company, just as it was the industry, with the 1% being this guy here.
It's probably not a surprise to 99.9% of supposed wrestling journalists as well. The only one left you can trust, ladies and gentlemen. I put my neck on the line, and now what looks what's bloody happened?
It's CM Punk, right? I'm one of his biggest fans, but you'd be foolish not to use very recent history to show that things can change, times can change, and people can change.
Yes.
And, we have fun with the bets, the literal bets we've got on going about whether or not he'll make it to WrestleMania or not. We've already talked on this report about fantasy booking, but all of that is with the caveat of as long as things don't go wrong. They always might, but this is nice here.
Yeah, I think I was concerned, and I think everyone would have been concerned even before the news happened of all we hear right now backstage in WWE is everyone's really happy.
Yeah.
It's all going really well. And chucking the grenade that CM Punk is into that could make things very interesting. Now, I do understand that there will be concerns. That's completely understandable. CM Punk's coming back. Right, well, I heard about what happened with him over there, and also, what's my position going to be going forward?
Yeah.
Obviously, people concerned about people like Damian Priest, for example, or Cody and his big, story heading to WrestleMania. But yeah, I'm glad that people aren't immediately just, no. It's over to Punk now. He's got to integrate himself into that locker room rather than have people come. Yeah,
you've got to have faith in the leadership to be able to control what is potentially a volatile situation. And if you do, then again, like we've talked about spite and we've talked about perception victories and stuff like that. It's a pretty big one, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm hoping it becomes more the stories like we got in AEW, where he made not necessarily weird friendships, but just surprising friendships with people you wouldn't, like people like FTR. That kind of just makes sense. But when it was like, oh yeah, he's put an arm around Powerhouse Hobbs or Ricky Starks, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to see who he does that with in WWE, who he says, I've been watching your match and here's some pointers and whatever. Because let's be honest, regardless of his backstage attitude sometimes, he is a hell of a person to learn from.
He did that dark segment, didn't he, where Hook knocked him out and he stayed laid down on the mat while everybody was leaving. And he sold it for the entire time until the lights were getting turned off and stuff. So
who's he gonna be weird pals with in WWE?
Can't wait.
Otis?
Chelsea Green. Just some character gets like the Punk wisdom.
Yeah.
Like that, it'd be great.
Really looking forward to that. Right, let's move over to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE. Of course, you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from the great Pooter. Thank you very much for this. And it's about WrestleMania, but not about Punk. Morning, gents. What do you think about Goldberg coming back to have his last match at WrestleMania 40 to put over Braun Breaker.
I don't mind that. The spear versus the spear, the whole thing. I still think Goldberg to AEW feels more likely right now. Like, he did feel like he conducted all of the WWE business he needed to. And he also feels a little bit, as a wrestler, like a hangover of this Vince McMahon always relies on returning stars. Like, I know that we've not had loads of examples of this, but every time we've seen Triple H, Eugene, Legends, for the most part, like not counting The Undertaker or NXT, it's about helping the younger talent. And I just think like Goldberg, I appreciate losing to Bron Breakker does help.
Yes,
but like there are a lot of wrestlers that could get spots and not many spots.
And
So
it's big shoes to fill if you're saying Bron Breakker's the new Goldberg, basically. I wouldn't argue against it. I think he's awesome.
I think Bron Breakker and Brock Lesnar is far more effective.
Yeah, I like that as well. But I can also see, I know obviously Goldberg's not in WWE right now, I don't think, but I can see them saying, just one match and one build to WrestleMania. Like your farewell at WrestleMania. You can go and do stuff in AEW after that, obviously. But a farewell match, putting over a younger guy that's drawing comparisons to Goldberg alongside Brock Lesnar. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the WrestleMania card, as I'm booking it, is one of the greatest cards I've ever seen.
It's not, and as well, it's not Big Bill versus Big Bill, is it?
No.
The Big Bill Derby exists. Wait.
God. Sorry, Ricky Starks. That could be a tag team.
Oh, Big Bills.
The Big Bills.
Oh my God.
They always make money rain from this.
Yes.
Sorry,
the Big Bills.
Carter again for. Anyway, TrollMac20 gives us our next question. Good morning to the best wrestling journalists out there. Well, there's only one of us, but thanks anyway. I just thought, what AEW character would be a hoot in WWE? Imagine Christian's character with Dom or against Cody. Thank you guys as always. Thank you for the question, TrollMac.
That's quite nice. Christian Cage. It's weird to think of Christian Cage, somebody who's so synonymous such long time in WWE, now having such a different role. He could come back and
what would that guy look like in WWE? We could have seen him for quite some time.
20 odd years of footage, yeah. This is perhaps a boring one, and especially because things have turned for him a little bit in the last few months. But it's absolutely for me. Like, gimmick and all.
Yes.
I think we have seen, at least I think when like CM Punk helped rehabilitate him on Collision, what a star that man can be, dating all the way back to 2020 when he first arrived in AEW and you kind of couldn't get enough of him. It's been an up and down road in AEW, and I just wonder if, you look at the likes of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, and these are like fun comedic heels, but Starks can do that and then immediately like hide just how classy is everything else.
Yeah.
There is a serious top guy potential wrestler underneath Ricky Starks' like otherwise quite fun and like playful demeanour. And
bare minimum world heavyweight champion there.
Absolutely, yeah. I just think that particular world right now, WWE is his oyster, so I would like to see that. I
am never someone who wants to see people in relationships separated, but I will keep banging the drum that I want to see Britt Baker in WWE one day. I don't really know what's going on with her in AEW. She lost her way, I think it's fair to say, recently.
She'd be an interesting call-up on NXT, but like they like to give people second jobs. Can't think of anything she could do.
And the other one I thought of was one we actually were talking about in the office yesterday, and that is in the greatest wrestling show of the week, NXT, which was, again, sensational. Simon Miller coming your way with ups and downs later on today, and of course, we'll be reviewing it on the WhatCulture Wrestling Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. I want to see Danhausen in NXT.
Yeah, that'd be quite funny.
Because they could fully commit to the curse gimmick. It wouldn't just be, I'm cursing you, so you've lost your match. It'd be like, I'm cursing you, and you have to carry on this gimmick forever.
Now you leak you out of your ears. Because he's cursed his ears.
Yeah. Final question today comes from Ash. Thank you, Ash, for this one. Do you think WWE could ever conjure a storyline where, I'm so glad you're sitting down for this, Punk, Reigns, and Lesnar could be in a stable together? The three Heymans plus Heyman himself becoming the manager, a sort of play on the Four Horsemen. I mean, Jesus Christ, what a trio. If you're going to bring in trios belts, they're your winners right there.
I mean, I, for one, don't think you can have a Paul Heyman guys stable without Rybaxel being a part of it. And Ryback's retired.
I was about to say, yeah.
No, I mean, that's obviously... For all, there's probably too many super
It's sort of a 2K thing where the three of them would wrestle on Superstars.
Yeah, you see them all stood in line. Hey, they've got like just
against,
poses.
I don't know, Undertaker, Goldberg, and I don't want to say Kane. Pick someone else.
Mid-card of the main event.
Yeah.
Paul White. Realistically, no, but it would be a lot of fun. Here, man, Punk mentioning the wise man. got people it tickled the proverbial balls a little bit, didn't it, on the idea that one day those will come together. Like, he knows what he's doing there, seeding something with Roman Reigns, and the first time that Punk and Heyman even share the screen together, I think is going to be like, it's going to remind me of when like Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe were on Raw together the first time. Like, like just seeing that come back together.
Yeah,
like,
they don't need to be reunited in as a duo, but I love the interaction between the two of them. And why not, as people have suggested before, keep that as a 3 with Heyman as the manager and make it a 4 horsemen of wrestling in terms of they can all work in the ring. Put Braun Breaker in there.
Oh my god. Yeah, just monsters. Just absolute monsters.
I mean, they can't lose.
Forgot that he was a sideways Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
That's a nice little thing that NXT's great, isn't it? Yeah.
God. Oh, now if that doesn't happen, I'm going to be sad. Sadder, sorry.
Sadder than you are right now.
Anyway, let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed, and make sure you check out this video. We'll see you soon.